The world's oceans are vast and filled with all kinds of strange things, and some of it is undeniably weird. Occasionally, these oddities wash up on shore, and sometimes even sea monsters make an appearance. Here are the 20 biggest sea creatures ever found on the beach. Number 20. The Bondi Beach octopus. First of all, when locals saw this weird sight on Bondi Beach, there was a very brief moment when they thought something completely bizarre and utterly gigantic had indeed washed up on the beach. But then they took a closer look. This happened in May of 2022, and it turned out to be a film set. I mean, crazy, right? Who would have thought that a colossal octopus surrounded by hazmat-clad individuals wasn't real? Anyway, this was actually the set from Stranger Things 4, and according to those who were there, it was an upside-down rift from the new series. The tentacles spewed out from what appeared to be a hole in the beach, and were surrounded by warning signs and mysterious military-looking cases and equipment. What would you think if you took the dog out for a walk and happened upon a scene like this at your local beach? Would you think that aliens had landed, or that there was some new form of massive sea monster being discovered? Go ahead and let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. Number 19. Dead whale washes up on beach. Back in 2020, this enormous 75-foot-long whale washed up on the beach in Indonesia. It is believed that the dead creature was most likely just a blue whale, although it had washed up one day and washed back out to sea again, the next before anyone really had the opportunity to go and haul it in for examination. And it would have been a substantial undertaking to achieve that. You just can't go and drag it up the beach, you know. Blue whales, well, they're very large, but you probably already know that, don't you? The awesome blue whale is the biggest creature to ever live on planet Earth. It's even larger than any dinosaur, and the most excellent thing is that these incredible sea monsters are still around today. You could actually see one for yourself. It's pretty tricky to get your head around the real scale of the blue whale. They're a monstrously big mammal, measuring about 100 feet, which is like a 10-story building laid out flat, and weighing a totally incomprehensible 441,000 pounds. That's like 220 tons. This extraordinary whale, well, it's the biggest of all sea monsters ever. Number 18. Mysterious fanged creature. A peculiar discovery on a Texas beach left people both unsettled and intrigued, prompting them to ponder what on earth this weird, gross thing could have actually been. People are seemingly always baffled with stuff that washes up on the beach. You know, we go around most of the time with a fairly solid idea of what stuff is, but show us a thing on a beach and we're all utterly clueless. Go figure. Fortunately, some so-called experts have shed light on the matter. Although, are there actually experts in weird beach shiz? Who could possibly say? This unusual sight would be spotted at Bolivar Peninsula, a 27-mile coastline northeast of Galveston. The grayish mass was a kind of symmetrical shape with frilly bits on its outside and molar-like formations with sharper teeth towards the top, as you can probably see in the picture. While the sight disturbed a lot of people, some individuals found the mysterious mass strangely familiar. It turns out that it wasn't a sea creature or even an extraterrestrial entity, but rather the remnants of a fish that had been caught and filleted. Well, what do you know? Yet again, people have been rendered totally brainless while on a beach. Experts from the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department confirmed the conclusion, saying that the feathery parts are the gills attached to the bony arches. The spiky bits in the top middle were potentially teeth. They couldn't identify the species, but it was believed to most likely have been a large sportfish. Mystery solved, and it all turned out to be really, really boring in the end. Number 17. Largest sea turtle. Now, it can be a tough life when you're an enormous turtle, especially if you get stuck somewhere awkward. Hauling your massive self out of difficulty, that can be almost impossible, and that's when you have to rely on the kindness of strangers to help you out of a jam. This giant leatherback turtle found itself in such a spot of bother when it got trapped in a swamp on the beach at Uping in North Sulawesi, Indonesia. And this thing really was a giant as well, weighing approximately 420 pounds. It was quite the chunky chap. The villagers who discovered the turtle's predicament were quick to act, trying to help the large marine animal slowly make its way out of difficulty and back down to the beach, to the water. And hooray, they did make it. Leatherback turtles are rare, and as such, they're a protected species. It's long been illegal to hunt them in Indonesia, ever since 1987. Fortunately for the turtle, people these days are more inclined to rescue one of them rather than roast them over a fire. Number 16. Mysterious giant hairy sea monster. This mysterious sea monster carcass washed up on the beach beside the Bering Sea. That's a very cold and feisty sea located between Alaska and Russia, spanning approximately 750,000 square miles. It's renowned for its rich marine biodiversity, supporting a whole load of different species of fish, seals, whales, and seabirds. This gross and very smelly monster was discovered on the shore near a village, and it's alleged to have left locals baffled as to what it could have actually been. But my guess is that they weren't so dopey as to not have figured it out. This is evidently the decomposing body of a large marine mammal, likely a whale. These people live in one of the coldest and most insanely tough places on Earth, right next to a sea where there are many large and strange living things. Dead stuff is likely to wash up from time to time, and I know it's super gross, but when something is dead, it begins to break down. In water, that can make for some unusual stylings. Oftentimes, the rotting muscles, ligaments, and other tissues become kind of stringy, almost hairy looking. So, now it's time for today's topic. On the quiet shores of North Carolina's Outer Banks, beachgoers stumbled upon a sight straight out of a nightmare. A massive, unidentifiable creature had washed up on the sand, drawing crowds of curious onlookers and experts alike. The creature's body was unlike anything locals had seen before, resembling a bizarre blend of marine life with reptilian features, leathery scales, and rows of razor-sharp teeth that lined its gaping mouth. Marine biologists and researchers quickly began examining the creature, and their findings were baffling. Despite its massive size, the creature had no visible heart, no blood vessels, and no circulatory system that would suggest it was a typical marine animal. Its internal structure appeared oddly simple, almost primitive, as though it belonged to a species from a prehistoric era. There were no signs of modern anatomy. Instead, it seemed to have a unique, ancient physiology unlike any known creature. The discovery left scientists puzzled, sparking theories about deep-sea environments that might have preserved ancient species. Some speculated it could be a distant relative of extinct sea predators, adapted to life in the deepest, most isolated parts of the ocean. The creature was quickly taken away for further study, leaving the locals and experts alike to wonder if more ancient mysteries lie hidden beneath the waves. Number 15. Huge sea monster on Ainsdale Beach. Yuck, here's another gross one. It turns out that quite a lot of things that wash up on the beaches are pretty disgusting, and we're all merrily swimming in that filthy soup without a care in the world. When this massive, allegedly 15-ton creature was discovered on Ainsdale Beach in the UK, it set off a whole host of chatter about exactly what kind of creature this decomposing carcass might have once been. It was nasty and smelly and a health hazard, but that didn't seem to stop the inquisitive people of Merseyside from venturing out to take a look, pegs on noses and smartphones in hands. Amongst the more imaginative suggestions were woolly mammoth or walrus, but frankly it looks a whole lot like a cow. A poor, unfortunate cow that fell in the sea and met an untimely ending, only to suffer the indignity of being washed up on a beach during a period of time when people had very little more to do than to take their daily exercise and update their Facebook status. So what did it turn out to be? Does anyone out there know? Tell me all about it in the comments down below so we can all stop obsessing over it. Number 14. Rare oarfish washes ashore. Back in 2013, a weird thing happened in California when two giant oarfish washed up on the shore within a week of each other. Not so weird, you may think, until you find out that these things are actually super rare and live in extremely deep waters, literally thousands of feet down. So, what business they had rocking up all dead and stinky in California? Well, that's anyone's guess, really. They are the longest of all bony fish, growing up to a humongous 56 feet long. Another reason these big guys are seldom seen is probably because they taste disgusting. Described as gelatinous goo, the giant oarfish has avoided becoming a sought-after fish simply by being too gross to eat. If you ever heard a salty old tale of deadly encounters with a giant sea serpent, well, this is one to give you a shiver. The oarfish, well, it is that sea serpent. And yes, they are real, but how much battling they actually do with fishermen and boats, well, that's the fishy bit of the story, already part of myth and legend. The giant oarfish does seem to have some kind of mystical power. They're known to turn up just before an earthquake like some kind of slippery soothsayer, and some sort of earthquake prediction is never exactly something to look forward to, least of all in California. Number 13. Sea monster washes up in Russia. The Sakhalin Island sea monster, which also goes by the extremely flattering moniker of the globster, is an unidentified marine creature that washed up on the shore of a beach in Russia in 2006. This bizarre carcass naturally captured the attention of the constantly puzzled media due to its unusual appearance. Measuring about 14 feet in length, it had pale and leathery skin and had none of the regular features that you would expect, like eyes or a head. The lack of any discernible bones or cartilage made it even more perplexing, as scientists struggled to determine if it was fish, mammal, or something entirely unknown. Its skin was unusually tough, almost rubbery, resisting many of the decay patterns typically seen in other marine creatures. Local witnesses described a faint odor of sulfur around the carcass, adding to its unsettling mystique. Some experts suggested it could be an example of deep-sea gigantism, where certain creatures grow unusually large in the depths, but that theory only raised more questions. The sheer size and mystery of the globster sparked wild theories, including tales of prehistoric sea monsters or alien organisms. Scientists speculated that the sea monster may have actually been a decayed or decomposed sea creature, such as a giant squid, a basking shark, or even a previously unknown species. Despite numerous investigations, its true identity still remains a mystery, and it's left everyone in a constant state of head-scratching confusion. Number 12. Sea creature in Indonesia. It doesn't seem as if this would be an especially difficult object to identify, but apparently, people seem to be functioning on limited brain cells when it comes to stuff that washes up on the beach. According to most news reports, whenever any gross, dead, and decomposing carcass washes onto the shoreline pretty much anywhere in the whole entire world, well, they would have you believe that all the local people, the ones who have lived their lives there, are all just standing around going, gosh, I'll be darned. What in the world could this possibly be? Nobody knows. I tell you, it's a total mystery. All while they stand next to a stinking, rotting heap of whale blubber. Seriously, here we are yet again on another beach in Indonesia, and people seem to have literally no idea what this massive, dead whale could possibly be. The huge, pinkish, bleeding, rotting corpse was indeed a 50-foot-long baleen whale. Now, I grant you, if you're not a whale scientist, then narrowing down the exact species might be tricky, but this is clearly a whale, right? Or am I wrong? What else could it possibly be? Answers in the comments section down below, please. I know you want to. Number 11. Giant stingray in Cambodia. Is this the largest freshwater fish in the world? I know you can't believe any old big fish story you hear, but hang on a moment. This one is a big un, and it's also known as the whipray. The giant stingray is the stuff of legends, rarely seen, but with local tales telling of gigantic 1,000-pound fish. This species is the prize for anglers who are looking for something epic. In 2009, it was announced that the largest catch of this incredible creature had been documented on an expedition by National Geographic in the waters off of Thailand. The colossal catch measured 2 meters wide and a mighty 6.9 feet, or 2.1 meters, long. The poor creature, though, had lost its tail. I wonder if they named it Eeyore. And if it had still been attached, it's likely that this ray would have measured up to 5 meters long. Unfortunately, it seems that although they did get the giant stingray measurements, they didn't weigh it, so we can only have a guess at what it likely weighed. People think it was at least 450 kilograms, being the heaviest of its species previously known to humankind. So, luckily, this new world record has taken its place, and this time the fish had a tail and they even remembered to weigh it. It was caught in the Mekong River in Cambodia in 2022 and measured a substantial 13 feet long, weighing a very hefty 661 pounds. It was a whopper, and there are no doubts as to its record-breaking credentials. It does make you wonder what might be in the old Mekong River, though, doesn't it? Perhaps this thing also glows in the dark. Number 10. Anglerfish in San Diego. Well, would you believe it? We've yet another mystery on our hands. Why can't news broadcasters find any other way to frame a story about things that wash up on the shore? Is it inherently mysterious and completely mystifying when things that live in the sea are found on the beach? Probably not, but to news crews all over the world, it seems as though this is a concept they simply can't wrap their tiny minds around. This anglerfish finding its way to the shore in San Diego was just simply too weird for some people. Anglerfish are found in seas all over the world, and this particular one is found in the Pacific, the ocean that borders San Diego. They live in deep waters, mostly near the seafloor, so they're amongst the most odd creatures. They have their own source of luminescence that they use in the weird fleshy thing that dangles out of the top of their head. This thing is their lure that they use to attract prey, like an angler with a fishing line. You see, anglerfish are really efficient hunters and not only have a whole bunch of extremely unpleasant sharp and pointy teeth, but they also have gargantuan mouths. The anglerfish's massive mouth extends the entire circumference of their head, and it can also extend to such a colossal width that these scary sea dwellers can swallow prey that is twice their size. Number 9. Megamouth shark. If you were under the misguided belief that all sharks were essentially the same kind of big mouth nightmares, then I'm sorry to have to break it to you, but you are quite wrong, my friend. There's a particular species of shark that is so revoltingly terrifying in the facial hole department that you may never sleep again now that you've seen it, and I'm not sorry about that. Although this monstrous sea creature is all things terrifying, it's also mercifully rare. In fact, the hideous beast has only been spotted less than 100 times ever since it was first discovered. The megamouth shark's massive, gaping jaws are lined with hundreds of tiny, needle-like teeth, giving it a nightmarish grin that only adds to its eerie appearance. Unlike other sharks, it relies on filter feeding, cruising through the depths with its enormous mouth wide open to capture plankton and small fish. Due to its sluggish nature, it's often mistaken for other deep-sea animals until that unmistakable mouth comes into view. The species is known to inhabit depths of over 500 feet, where it swims almost ghost-like, keeping far from the reach of curious humans. Anyways, these megamouth sharks live in deep water, which is one of the reasons that we human scaredy cats will rarely come into contact with them. But they do occasionally get themselves caught up in fishing gear, such as in the case of this megamouth shark. This is one of the very rare sightings of these monsters, and these fishermen in the Philippines happened upon a deceased megamouth in the Burias Pass, which is in between two places I can't pronounce in central Philippines, and it is a pretty grim sight. Don't go having any nightmares now. Number 8. Basking shark. In another head-scratcher of an event, back in 2021, a dead basking shark washed up in the Greenland Cove in Bremen, Maine. The Department of Marine Resources duly headed out to give it a good prod and figure out what it was doing there. The news also had nothing better to do that day. It wasn't the most enormous when it comes to potential basking shark size. This one was just 26 feet long. They can regularly get to be as big as 40 feet, but that was about it, really. Medium-sized dead basking sharks wash up in Maine all the time, and the headline of the century this is not. But, to be honest, these things are much more interesting when they're alive. Some of the ocean's gentle giants, the basking shark is the second biggest shark in the world. Only whale sharks are larger. The basking shark eats only plankton and catches this prey in a particularly unique and frankly weird-looking way. Its gargantuan mouth can open up to be 1 meter wide, giving the creature a funny and permanently surprised sort of expression. As well as being a monster-sized 40 feet long and considerably hefty 10,000 pounds in weight, this supersized shark has some other unusual features. Their livers make up a colossal 25% of their body weight. And what does a basking shark need with such a big liver anyway? This shark's liver is stuffed full of a substance called squalene, which is what helps to keep the shark afloat. Weird. The special filtration system that a basking shark uses to catch its food is also pretty unique. It filters over 4 million pounds of water an hour, capturing the tiny plankton and separating them from the water. It closes its massive mouth to pump the water out through its gills. It's a totally jawsome talent right there. Number 7. Two-headed dolphin. This particular sea creature that washed up on the beach in Turkey was actually kind of unusual. This was a two-headed dolphin calf that had died and wound up on the shore, and it's sadly not difficult to see why the animal didn't survive. The condition of the two-headed dolphin is known as polycephaly. It's a similar sort of thing to what happens when conjoined twins are formed. In fact, cases of polycephaly have been documented in several marine animals, though it remains an extremely rare occurrence. The dolphin calf likely faced major challenges in basic survival skills, such as swimming straight and catching food, both crucial for its survival in the wild. Researchers noted that polycephalic animals often experience internal organ abnormalities, which likely contributed to the dolphin's inability to thrive. Additionally, the coordination required for breathing and diving would have been a struggle, leaving it vulnerable to drowning. The discovery sparked curiosity among scientists, who continue to study these rare occurrences to understand the underlying genetic or environmental factors that might cause them. The embryo begins to split like when two twins develop, but then it stops before it's completely divided. It's really difficult for creatures with this condition to survive in the wild. They're easy prey for all kinds of predators as they're slow-moving, perhaps because it can't decide which way to go. Number 6. 3 dead sperm whales. 1 dead whale is quite enough, really, but 3? It seems kind of unlikely. Back in 2016, 3 deceased sperm whales were discovered to have washed up on a beach in the United Kingdom. This is a pretty sad state of affairs, and as scientists came out to assess what had happened, they established that these 3 whales were almost certainly from the same pod as another that had been beached in Norfolk just recently. It was not immediately evident what had caused the deaths of these mammals, and scientists had taken samples of blubber, skin, teeth, and blood, all to establish what had gone so catastrophically wrong. Sperm whales and other deep-sea creatures like them will sometimes become caught accidentally in shallow waters, and this can cause them to become extremely disoriented and might even result in their beaching and subsequent death. They may be following food sources like squid as they get closer to shallower water and then end up in some difficulty. There have been many studies to understand this, including the links between stranding and the increased use of underwater sonar, as well as the impact that climate change may be having on these creatures. Number 5. Mysterious hairy blob. When a creature dies in water and is left to float about a bit, all kinds of gross things can happen to their body. Some of those things can make it kind of difficult to identify what the animal might have been when it was previously alive. I know this is kind of upsetting, but this is also why there are so many of these mysterious alien creature stories. Sorry to be a big old party pooper, but it's time that we focus on some facts. When this apparently mysterious hairy blob washed ashore in the Philippines, It only took a few random snaps on someone's phone and a quick upload to social media before a bunch of bright sparks took it upon themselves to poke their own decidedly unqualified oars in and give the mess a good stir. Some of the extremely quick-witted suggestions included the speculation that the unfortunate 20-foot-long creature was an old English sheepdog. I mean, really 20 feet long, or a poor, dead sea cow. Somewhat boringly, the local authorities stepped in to clear up the conundrum, and presumably the rotting 2,000-kilogram carcass, and released a statement that said it was actually a dead whale. Yes, it turns out that when a whale is decomposing in water, its flesh can turn white and begin collapsing in such a way as to appear kind of hairy. I hope nobody was eating their dinner. Number 4. The Montauk Monster. Back in 2008, a gross, bloodless, and bloated body washed up on the shores of Montauk in Long Island, New York, and everyone freaked out. Well, probably you would, wouldn't you? Anyway, this creature that soon became known as the Montauk Monster was spotted there on the beach, all dead and gross and stuff, and then it was just suddenly gone and nobody seemed to know why. That's the perfect way to ensure that a mystery remains mysterious. Plenty of people weighed in with a bunch of dopey ideas, as people are wont to do, and the myth of the Montauk Monster was born. There was speculation that it was a strange mutant creature accidentally created in a lab at the nearby Plum Island Animal Disease Center. Naturally, there were plenty of people who said it was aliens. But what do you think about it? I'm going with it being a sheep that had been in the water for a while. But how about you let me know what you think the Montauk Monster was in the comments section down below. Number 3. Killer whales beached. When killer whales hunt for their favorite snacks, which are cute and friendly seals, by the way, they come right up to the shore where the seals are hanging out. Killer whales are not exactly shy. They get right up close and personal to get at their desired meal. These intelligent predators use coordinated hunting strategies, often working together to create waves that knock seals off precarious ice floes or sandbars. It's a truly eerie sight to watch as orcas communicate with each other, synchronizing their movements to ensure no seal escapes. Sometimes, they'll slap the water with their tails to stun or disorient their prey, giving the other members of the pod a chance to pounce. Their agility and teamwork make them incredibly effective hunters, able to adapt their tactics depending on the environment and prey. And once they capture a seal, they'll often share it with the entire pod, displaying a rare level of social bonding over a shared meal. The sandbars upon which these seals had chosen to rest were a more dangerous option than they had ever imagined. A pod of killer whales was on the prowl, and they were hungry. The killer whales will get right out of the water in order to catch a seal, and that is what happened here. The orcas literally beached themselves in the pursuit of a meal. They were stuck there until the tide came back, and they were able to swim away once again. Number 2. Rare giant squid. When Adele Gross and her husband took a walk on the beach in Britannia Bay in the Western Cape province of South Africa, they had a really unusual experience. They came upon a fully intact giant squid, and these things are as rare as hen's teeth. It was already dead, but that meant they could take a much closer look. These things are really super rare, and they weren't even observed in their habitat until 2004. Even then, it would not be until as late as 2013 that video footage would be published. These epic sea monsters are very cool and the stuff of legend. Age-old tales of fishing boats being wrestled by these beasts, and when you see the size of some of these giant squid, you're going to understand why. The biggest ever recorded giant squid measured a colossal 59 feet long and weighed a ton, and that would make some monstrous calamari rings. They may actually get bigger than that, though. These huge invertebrates are notoriously difficult to study, and much of their behavior and knowledge about them is generally unknown. The coolest thing that scientists usually get is if a dead squid washes up on the beach somewhere or is accidentally caught by surprised fishermen. They live in very, very deep waters, and it's believed that they mainly eat fish, other squid, and quite possibly even small whales. These creatures are equipped with 8 arms, having 2 additional tentacles that they use for feeding, literally like hands for popping their food into their beaks. The giant squid also sports a set of gigantic peepers. Their eyes are the biggest of all creatures on Earth, measuring a whopping 10 inches across. This also means that down in the sea where it's really dark, they can likely see their prey before their prey sees them. That's another awesome adaptation. Number 1. Great white shark in Santa Cruz. Now, I don't know about you, but if you absolutely had to encounter a great white shark, would you prefer for it to be recently departed on the beach like this one or in the water? I mean, nobody exactly likes to see any creature that's met its maker, but in the case of a shark that may well eat you, I think this is one situation where this state of being may just be ever so slightly preferable. I know I'm a terrible person, Go on and have a go at me in the comments section down below. This great white shark had washed up on the beach in Santa Cruz County back in 2018. And guess what? Yes, it was a total mystery. Not like, sharks live in the sea and therefore die in the sea, and the stuff in the sea gets washed up on the shore or anything simple like that. Oh no, this was a total mystery to everyone at the beach. I mean, geez, this is a weird phenomenon that empties people's brains when they step foot in the sand. But even if it was dead and mysterious, that didn't stop people from taking a selfie with its carcass. It is in pretty poor taste, even if it is a shark, don't you think? And that's a wrap from the beach today. What's the weirdest thing you've ever found? Maybe a massive sea creature? Share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the cool videos popping up on the screen, and I'll see you next time.